Hi, this is Cool Ass People, and I'm your host and producer, Phoebe. Today we're talking to Thomas Schwarz about his run for City Council Ward 3 in Bradenton, Florida. Let's talk to him now. Well, Thomas,
yes,
we've made it. Hello.
Hi,
We're here. Could you tell us where we are right now?
We are at Calva Social Club in downtown Bradenton.
Okay, and what does this place mean to you?
Oh, wow. It means so much. It's a third space for sure. I think that third spaces are a big part of the community right now. You know, you have your house, you have the place that you work, but where do you go to just vibe, to just hang out? It's open 24/7, and the people that work here and the people that come here, it's an amazing community. It really, really is. So home and friends and family, it's kind of all bundled into one place right here.
Thomas, I was wondering if you could tell us what you are running for in Manatee County.
So I am running for the Bradenton City Council for Ward 3, which is the ward that we're actually in right now.
Okay, very nice. And could you tell us a little bit more about your connection to this area in Bradenton?
Absolutely. So I was born in New York, but I moved down here at the ripe old age of 8, and I've lived here for 22 years. So I've gone to all the schools here. I went to Sug Middle, Manatee High School, SCF for my associates, and then USF in Sarasota for my bachelor's in communications. But amongst that, I've also played Little League at GT Bray, ridden my bike from what feels like all the ways in Palmasola, all the ways to East Bradenton. And I've seen this community go in the right direction in a lot of ways for a lot of those years. But we are coming off of a rather tumultuous city council, I guess you could say, in the last couple of decades. So the city council that we have now and the mayor that we have now have been doing amazing things going forward. But since launching my campaign, I've also noticed a lot of gaps that still exist. So that's partially why I'm running as well.
And what even is city council?
That is a great question. A really easy way to think about it is it's your local neighborhood leaders. It's your first line of defense when it comes to anything that you naturalistically would complain about or have an issue with. Traffic is a good one. Codes, how small businesses operate is a big part of it as well. How we budget our money. There's a lot of things that City Council does, but yeah, that's the thick and thin of it.
Well, you know, when people talk about politics, a lot of us are at least somewhat knowledgeable about what's happening in Washington, but a lot of people do not know what's happening in their own town. And to me, it's like the small government of your town is kind of like the soft skills of what government does. Yes. It's because it's on a smaller scale, but it is so important to our everyday lives.
Absolutely. What I tell people all the time is you probably know who the President of the United States is, and you probably even know who the governor of your state is. But do you know who the mayor of your town is? Or better yet, do you know the representative for the ward that you live in? 9.5 out of 10 times, honestly, people are like, I have no idea. That's a problem to me. You said it best yourself. The level of government that is closest to you, both physically and in making decisions about your life, you should be the most familiar with. Not just at community events where your name's on a banner or you're cutting a ribbon, but in third spaces like this and everyday life. You should be able to talk to them, and you should absolutely be able to go up to them with issues that you have and feel comfortable enough to approach them with them.
Looking over your website, the 3 pillars of your campaign are as follows. 1, accessibility. 2, accountability. And 3, transparency. Why those focuses?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thank you.
So the big one for me is accessibility. I think that with accessibility, with being able to actually reach out, not just through email, but maybe other means of communication, that will breed accountability, and then that will open the avenues for transparency. It's definitely a building block system. I want to explore different avenues, maybe like an app, or expand on our texting services to keep people informed as much as possible and give them the opportunity to ask questions. With accountability, there's a lot of calls for why decisions are being made right now or how those decisions are being made, the processes to which those take place. And I want to shed light on those, because even if you might not necessarily agree with the decisions that are being made, you should know why they're being made and how those decisions will either affect your neighborhood, the roads that you live around, or your small business that you operate in town.
So being a part of City Council requires community involvement and communication. Have you been doing this, and in what ways?
Oh, yes. So if you follow my social media, you will know that I try my best to get out every single day and involve myself in some form or fashion in the community. Whether that's volunteering through Suncoast Water Keepers, helping out the waterways, or out at AMI doing beach cleanups, or just sitting down with community leaders. I have a list that I'm working on called the 100 Voices of Bradenton, where I'm going to either community leaders, nonprofits, and just sitting down and learning as much as I can, whether about the things that they do on their everyday or the gaps that they're facing, where City Council is currently helping and where City Council can better have a hand in helping.
Can I ask then, where do you think City Council could be improving?
Sure. Communication, you said it right in the question, is a big one. A lot of people, I would say, have this, they want to be heard and they want to know what is going on. They just don't know the avenues to explore to get there. They might not know the right people to talk to, even so much so at a basal level of, hey, I'll get a call, can you help me with this thing? Oh, well, that's actually the county, that's not city, So knowing where you live, knowing who your representatives are, and what avenues to explore to get the issues fixed is a big part of it. So communication, I think, is something that every level of government needs to work on a little bit better. I think we need to modernize a lot, too. A lot of what I see is, we're stuck in 2007, technologically speaking. I did a blog post recently about why our city council meetings aren't live streamed. Our county commission is live streamed. The only answer that I could find was because we need time to auto-generate closed captioning for ADA compliance, but it is also 2026 and we can kind of do all three of those things simultaneously. We can have ADA compliance, we can live stream them, and then we can also upload them to our YouTube channel that we have.
You have a YouTube channel? Hello.
Hello, yeah, there's like 200 subscribers on there. We'll try to work on that too. There's just a lot, I think. I go on the website and I try to navigate it and I have a migraine navigating that website. It's not modern in any regard. And that is a very small portion of what I want to modernize, all the way up to, looking at dynamic lighting for some of the systems that we have around town and just helping out alleviate some unpredictable traffic patterns.
For anybody that doesn't really use the internet too much or doesn't understand the concept of why things need to be digitized, can you explain that a little bit? Like, who does that help exactly?
So digitizing things kind of makes it a little bit more easily accessible for younger folks, I would say. Everyone has their phone on them nowadays, so getting a text alert is quite simplistically the best way to do it. Downloading an app would be the next, a little bit more in-depth. I want to explore why older folks might not be getting this information as easily. I don't know if it's just, they're not connected to the internet as properly as, a lot of the younger generations are, or they're focused on the older avenues to explore, physically going down to City Hall or calling a number. But there are a lot of different numbers to call for a lot of different reasons. So I think streamlining a lot of those would help out in a certain sense. But, the median age in Bradenton is 46 and a half. So let's put it that way. So there are avenues that we can explore on all different areas of the demographics to make sure that everyone is hearing what we have to say. I guess that's a semi-answer to that question.
No, I think it's important though, because there's also a lot of things where a town or a city, what have you, will be like, we've improved something, we've made the app. But you go in the app and again, it's a headache, it doesn't work, it crashes, whatever it is. And it's just nice to know that there's someone that would be there to be like, okay, we want to implement this and then we want to check up on it and actually make sure it's working.
Yeah, a feedback loop would be nice too.
Feedback loop, okay. Yeah,
not just we've done this thing and then we plant a flag in it and say we've done it. Congratulations to us. No, there's got to be more than that. A follow-up, updates consistently, and making sure that if we are, doing something incorrect or there's something that just is giving someone too much of a headache, okay, we'll work at it a different way. 5 plus 5 is 10, but so is 7 plus 3. There are multiple ways to getting to the same answer. And I am not adverse to trying a multitude of ways.
All right, love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, if my way doesn't work, or if the way that we come to as an agreement as a council doesn't work, we should be able to be adults and big enough to go, okay, let's change course.
Yeah, best idea wins.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so with the amount of involvement, you must be getting to know your neighbors. So what have you learned about your neighbors so far?
They're amazing. I've learned that they want to be heard. A lot of people have been disenfranchised or disconnected from politics in general. But on a local level, I don't think you should ever become completely disconnected. Like I said in the beginning, City Council is making decisions that affect your life every single day, whether that's updates to your neighborhood or to where you operate your small business. But people want to be heard. They really do. And I think that the character of Bradenton is so vast and so different that every time I interact with somebody or knock on a door, I don't know what to expect. But it's awesome every time, from someone saying, yeah, I'm okay, thank you so much, to actually engaging and listening. I have this great memory of this one little old lady that I knocked on her door. She seemed a little adverse towards seeing a politician knock on our door. But just saying, I'm not here to talk at you, I'm here to listen. Like, what's going on? Like, what do you see that's been positive in the last decade, and what do you see that you would like to done better? And giving people the opportunity to just listen and talk, that's really what is needed right now, I think. A lot of people want to be heard, and they want to know, like you said earlier before we even started this interview, they just want to know someone cares. And that's what the city council is supposed to do, and that's what I'm here to do. Is make sure that you're heard and that you're understood and that you know that someone is steering the ship for you. Because those are some pretty big waves out there, and we've really never been this far out to sea before.
It's very true. So on Facebook, you have stated that the days of reactive government should be behind us. What is reactive government, and what do you plan on doing differently?
Yes. Right. Thank you so much for asking this question. I appreciate it. Yeah, so reactive government. If you've lived in Bradenton or in Manatee County for any more than 2 decades or so, you'll see where we've come from. So you'll understand what I mean by reactive government. When I first launched this campaign, the reason that I launched it was because it's a democratically elected position. So I wanted there to be an option. But as I dove deeper into the campaign and started knocking doors and investigating more, really what it was for me was there's a lot of gaps that exist that I feel we could be proactive on. Not waiting for someone, God forbid, to die, or waiting for something to go wrong for us to then make a decision on that. What would I do differently? I want to look at issues that are being brought to our attention and open up avenues for people to bring them to our attention. So if you have an issue with your water infrastructure, for example, your toilet's shooting up water, leaking all over your floor, that shouldn't be happening, right? We need to be able to address those issues or find out that those issues are happening prior to them becoming emergencies or disasters, right? Proactive government means looking for the issues before they arise and solving them, again, before they become emergencies. Yeah, proactive instead of reactive. A lot of the things that we do, like I said right now, are amazing, but there are just some gaps that I feel that we have been very reactionary on, and that I think that if we just put a little bit more effort into, shine a little bit of a heavier light on, that we can absolutely be a lot more proactive in.
So you have also stated that supporting small business isn't just a talking point for me, it's personal. So how is small business personal for you?
It's people. I talk to these small business owners a lot, and you're taking time away from your family. You're taking time away from maybe your career. Maybe this is just a hobby that you do, but something that you're extremely passionate about. I've spent a lot of time with these small business owners outside of the campaign, and coming back to the third spaces, that's where it becomes personal to me too. Now, I have roommates. I don't want to spend all of my time at my house, but I would love to have a place to go and just relax. And a lot of these places, a lot of small businesses around Bradenton, especially in Ward 3, are personal to me. I think we described it best when we talked about CAPA right here. It's community, it's friends, it's family. But it's more than that too. It's a lot of people like to utilize the word the backbone of the economy. And don't get me wrong, that is true, but it's the identity of the community as well. That is a big part of it for me. It's, wow, there's a new coffee shop downtown, or wow, there's X, Y, and Z that I just never knew was here, or that I just stumbled upon today. Let me hear your entire story. Why did you want to open up an art studio on Manatee Avenue? Why did you want to do X, Y, or Z? And every story is so uniquely different and amazing in their own regard. And that's why it's personable to me. Like, it's community. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's just, I love walking into a new business or an existing business like Classic Ink that's been here for, God, long time on on Main Street. And it's just a different feeling, a different vibe, a different ecosystem of people. It's hard to kind of put it all into one thought for the podcast, but yeah, it's that. It's all of that put together. All of a smile on my face, if nothing else, and a sense of welcome and a sense of home outside of home.
Well, I know you've talked to me personally too about just like the grit of what it takes to run a small business. Could you kind of outline for people that maybe don't go downtown to see what's going on or don't know someone who owns a small business, how hard is it to get by and what does that look like?
Sure. So, where do you start? First, you got to come up with a cool idea that you want to invest your whole life into, which for some, they've had that since they were 5 years old, and for others, it's an idea that just came out of the blue one day and they're like, let's run with this. But it's difficult. It's a huge time dedication. You got to find a space, you got to get a loan to rent out stuff. There's permit pulling that's a headache for a lot of people. That's a long process as well. It's not an easy process, but what I also find is that the people that decide to open a small business are so invested invested in the city. And I am so honored for every small business that decides to open up within the 14.4 square miles of Bradenton City.
Also, small margins. So if you see a small business and you have the cash in your pocket, go in and spend something, please go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Support.
The small margins, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a big part. Shopping local, especially now in 2026, is paramount. I think that we should be supporting these folks as much as humanly possible, realistically. I try my best. I actually have a funny running joke. I have so many coffee shops that support me and love me. I have to touch each one of them every different day. I can't have the same cup of coffee every morning because I feel like I'm focusing too much on one coffee shop, but they're all so good. Orange Blossom was like, do you want to know how much money you spent here? And I was like, please don't tell me.
Yeah.
I was like, please don't. I'm happy to, but please don't tell me. I'll have a mini panic attack right now.
Speaking of small businesses, though, before we continue, I want to congratulate you because I know you have so many backings of so many small businesses.
Thank you, yes.
How many do you have?
So officially announced, just because I don't want to jump the gun here, I believe the number is 17 small businesses, but in the background that number is a little bit higher than that, for sure. But definitely 17 small businesses all across Bradenton and Manatee County, whether they're local, hyper-local small businesses that are run out of someone's garage, or huge staples like Orange Blossom Cafe.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Yep, I think that says something as a small business owner myself. Okay, so let's talk about water.
Oh, yay.
And specifically water infrastructure.
Yes.
So, what has been your personal neighborhood experience with our water systems?
Sure. I live in Wares Creek, and every year we've experienced flooding when there's a major storm, right? Naturalistically, it's from, what is it called when the water goes out and comes back in? Storm surge. Okay. That's what it's called. So I have these photos that I want to show you of the front of my house. We have a lot of flooding and stormwater drainage issues, especially in Wares Creek. A lot of it is due to, when trees go down and stuff like that, it backs up the sewage systems in the street, so the water has a hard time getting through.
No one wants to hear the words storm surge and sewage in the same sentence. It's not a thing that anyone wants to hear. But tell me your experience with that.
So every time there's a huge storm, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a hurricane, we do see a lot of flooding happen in the streets around Wares Creek. But that narrative also holds true for a lot of coastal housing, like on the riverfront area over here. There has been a wonderful implementation of focusing on the water infrastructure updates. They're doing coverage on piping that should last us about another 50 years or so. But there are a lot of gaps still. 13th Street, where we're sitting right now, horror stories. I don't want to go too in depth, but there are some horror stories that I've heard about 13th Street that I think does bear us to want to look at it in a little bit more depth, maybe even look at it in an emergency response situation. It also does come down to funding and looking at where we can get additional funding for that. But what I will say is that water infrastructure is something that gets brought up a lot. And with the development that we're seeing within the city, a lot of bigger development projects that are getting improved, people have concerns about stress on the water infrastructure. We hear stories over the last year just of emergency fixes that we've had to do for main breaks, lift station updates, and then again, like I said, we're putting the casing over pipings to kind of help better facilitate them for the next half century or so.
So could you describe to us, what does the piping system look like? What are the materials made out of it? What do you know about it so far, and how does it affect people locally when there is a breakage? What happens?
I'm not an expert in any regard in water infrastructure, but from what I have been learning and understanding over the course of this campaign is that there has been kind of a kicking of the can, for lack of a better term, over the last couple of decades, that the current mayor and the council in 2020 started to really get a stranglehold on. They implemented the Face It, Fix It initiative in 2020, and we're about 6 years out from that. The progress that has been made on that is wonderful. They've redone manhole covers and such, but what the issues look like and what some of the pipes are made out of, I'm going to give you the examples that I know. 13th Street right here, a lot of the pipes are made out of clay still, which isn't uncommon in any regard, but it's not up to standard anymore. And to completely update everything is a costly process and a timely one. We can't just completely shut off the water and close all the roads and do everything overnight. It's never going to be that quick. It's never going to be that simple. But issues that happen, water main breaks, you can lose water pressure. You can have no water going to your house for that day. It's something as simplistic as that. Or it's something as major as a pipe main bursting on Manatee Avenue and the entire road's closed for the day, So it's something as big as that. What we need to do is we need to relook at all the laying of the pipes and see where the emergency areas are and what is something that might be an issue within the next year or 6 months even, and see if we can get a head start on fixing those, again, before they become emergencies, proactive instead of reactive. But I haven't had a lot of time to look into the nuances and intricacies of the water infrastructure, but it is a topic that is always at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're curious about it, which is the start of figuring out how to fix something.
I always like to tell people I'm more than happy to listen and learn. I don't want to pretend to be an expert in everything under the sun. My job is not to tell Bradenton who or how to become itself, but to help those that have helped shape it to what it is now. The current council and the mayor have been doing wonders. I just think that we need to focus more on the gaps that are currently existing and see what ways we can better help them.
Okay, so in my observation, one issue is top of mind for constituents in this area, and that is overdevelopment. So tell us, what are you hearing from residents and how do you plan to address it? This is basically my question.
No, that's great. That's great. I love it.
I really want to know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to make one distincting factor here. A lot of the overdevelopment that you hear the conversations about might happen because they live in the county. So there's a lot of county sprawl happening right now and a lot of overdevelopment outward. When you talk about overdevelopment within the city limits, within the 14.4 square miles that is Bradenton City, a lot of people, it's about putting stresses on the current infrastructure that we have, whether that's the roads and traffic. You know, overdevelopment looks different for a lot of people, or it's a new project that's getting put up right next door to them that they don't agree with or that they didn't know about. The issues that I'm seeing and the conversations that I'm having with my constituents right now are multifaceted. A great microcosm of the issue that I'm seeing right now is people are asking me where City Hall is going to be. So I don't know if you're familiar, but City Hall and BPD currently share a building right on Old Main down there. That building has been sold, and in the future is eventually going to be a hotel, a sister hotel to the Marriott that's down there already, or the Spring Hill Suites.
Well, sitting right along the Manatee River is Bradenton City Hall. It's a desirable piece of property. The city sees an opportunity to re-energize the area with it. They entered into a contract to sell the land about 2 years ago. And as the process moves forward, the city believes they may have found a temporary relocation spot. Fox 13's Kimberly Cuizon explains where that is and what comes next.
Bradenton City Hall may soon have a new temporary home.
My goal was always to try to keep City Hall somewhere in the urban core downtown.
For about 6 years, city officials have been in the process of selling the City Hall property. The contract for $14.1 million should close by the end of the year. City Hall may be moving a few blocks down to the Manatee County Administration building.
They've moved out from all of their public works over on 26th Avenue East. A lot of their staff here is in their new building in the Lakewood Ranch area. So it opened up some opportunities for short-term lease.
Mayor Gene Brown says the city would be able to operate on about 1.5 floors of the county building. It comes ready to go with full furnishings and would give the city time to figure out where they'll end up.
This rental part or lease part will give us an opportunity to actually have some time to really flow into that.
So far, this is a working idea that county commissioners will first have to approve.
Our staffs are working together to try to come up with a plan.
As for current City Hall, the developer has proposed the Vias, which would bring apartments, condos, a hotel, along with restaurant and retail space to transform the downtown area.
It's exciting because we're looking at opportunity for the younger generation to have, hey, I want to stay in Bradenton. I don't want to have to go to our friends to the south or north, or I don't want to move from here. There's things for me to do in my family.
In Bradenton, Kimberly Cuizon, Fox 13 News.
The police department is actively being built on 9th Street over here. If my memory serves me correctly, I think it was like $14.4 million that we invested into that of taxpayer money. Great, we need it, it looks awesome. There has been some issues with the development, but I think they got their handle on it. The question that I'm then getting is, if they're so well off the ground on building BPD's new station, how come we haven't figured out where City Hall is going to be? Like, if you actively ask the mayor right now, today, Phoebe, where City Hall is going to be, he doesn't have a solid answer for you. That's a problem for me. We are currently kind of kicking the idea around of renting out 2 prefab floors of the county building. But for me, that's something that seems temporary that might, oh, it's temporary now, but we end up being there for 4 or 5 years, and I don't agree with that in any regard. There was issues about finding the perfect spot for City Hall, and that's why they couldn't put it, they couldn't figure that out yet, and there's still talks about that. But when you think of a city, Phoebe, what are the 3 basic things you think of when you think the city exists? I would say a library, City Hall, and a police station. And right now, one of those 3 things, we actively don't know where it's going to be. That's crazy. That's ludicrous and indefensible to me.
Well, as a constituent too, it's like, well, where do I go and talk to someone?
Exactly right. And you're only adding more red tape and more layers of bureaucracy. I mean, people already have issues going to their representatives now, or they're nervous to go to their representatives now. So instead of that old-timey building City Hall is in, that the ceilings are low, which is quaint and I love it, but I understand the need for a new one. Now you have to go into this scary 15-story county building. That's not easy to do. That's hard for people. If you're already mustering up the courage to come and talk to me as a representative, which again, you shouldn't even have to do that in the first place, because we should just be so chill with our local representatives that it should be a very colloquial thing to do. But yeah, now we're going to add that in and add layers of confusion and where do I go? And now we'll get people used to going to the county building for X amount of time and then move it again. Now you're adding another layer of confusion in there. It is a microcosm of a bigger issue, but that is one that constantly gets brought up to me because people are shooting by that police station all the time. It has a huge sign that says, your taxpayer dollars at work. Everyone's like, great, but where's the taxpayer dollars going for my city hall? That is what overdevelopment in a nutshell looks like for the city of Bradenton. As far as the county goes, that's a whole different animal.
Well, I know that's really where a lot of people have very strong feelings about new development going up housing-wise. And I'm wondering for you, anyone that maybe would go in the comments and be like, well, what are you going to do about it and stuff? What access do you have? What is your responsibility within development?
As far as housing is concerned, or just in totality?
Housing and any development that would, again, add traffic, put stress on the infrastructure. What would you say to that? Like, what is your role?
As far as my role going forward, let's put it into that perspective. It's heavy, I mean, I'm one of 5 votes, and oftentimes we do want to vote together as a council. That is our job, to kind of work together. But my job would be looking at every project on a case-by-case basis and understanding the impacts that it's going to have. We have impact fees that we give these developers, which kind of helps with, okay, the roads are going to be closed, there's going to be construction, we need to do this, that, and the other. There's impact fees for that. Whether it's increasing those to help expedite the process, to make sure that the area is kept clean during construction, a lot of things we can have our hands in to make sure that the effects that it has of residents that have called Bradenton home for decades are minimal. I see that a lot now happening. There are a lot of projects that do get approved that they do their best to make it as easy, I guess you could say, as possible for the residents that are around that development. But there are times when that just isn't the case for one reason or another. I can't speak for it. I can't say, oh, well, they didn't care. I don't know. I would hope that they cared and that it was something they couldn't get around. But what I would like to bring to the council is the trust that that I have looked at everything and that I would try and make it as easy as possible for the residents that have to experience that. I do get a lot of concerns. Again, I know I'm bringing it back to the City Hall thing, but the small businesses that are around that building are asking me when they start building this new hotel, what are the road closures going to look like? How's my foot traffic going to look if all these roads are closed, or there's just an overabundance of traffic now? Is people going to want to come to downtown for the next 8 months or whatever that it's going to take to put this up? I don't know. A lot of these businesses are, nano-thin margins. Like we said, a month's worth of lower traffic because of something that we decided to do as far as construction works could kill that business. Yeah. It could absolutely kill that business. And again, I do not want to speak for anybody as far as decision-making has gone, but what I will say is that I'm sure that there are ways that they look at it and go, okay, we need to make this as less of an impact for the surrounding area as possible. I'm sure that there are ways that we could look at even more so to make sure that that is the case.
Well, man, I know there's only so much you can do, but there's a lot of lack of creative thinking. Can't we just do something new?
Yeah, that's a great one. Do cool stuff just because. Maybe not just because, but yeah, I love that. I love that mentality. Making third spaces a little bit more interactive, a little bit more fun. Multi-use facilities also. A lot of these signs that we see around town say multi-use, but what I see them being is like storefronts on the bottom and then affordable or market price housing up top. But what about mixed use green spaces and half a park and maybe no driving block where it's only residents can walk through kind of deal. Things that residents can touch and feel and experience and want to live in and want to raise their family next to. A big part of it for me is going to be approving these projects and looking at it and going, okay, the people that I know that are raising families here, are they going to continue to want to raise their family here if this project gets approved? Or a lot of it is about bringing in revenue for the city. Don't get me wrong. The city is never going to stop growing. growing. We're not putting a fence around Manatee County and saying, don't move here. People are moving here. Development will happen, but it's the right development. It's the right strategy. It's the right forward thinking, proactive thinking. Not, well, that looks good on paper and the AI rendering of it looks really cool. So yeah, no, there needs to be a lot more than that. And again, I'm not saying that that's not what they're doing. I'm not on the council right now, but that's what I am bringing to the council.
Speaking of council, this job involves attending city council meetings and balancing budgets. So what experience do you have in these areas that you feel ready to serve your local area?
So I've lived here for 22 years. Lived experience, I think, is a huge part of it. I've seen where the city's come from. I've seen the things that we've overcome, the challenges that we've faced, and the opportunities that we've had. I've also worked in hospitality for 15 years. That is every single day, decision making on the fly, working with a multitude of backgrounds, ideologies, and personalities. Balancing budgets as well, micro thin margins. In my experience, I would like to say that I've had a hand in all of that, whether it's working with people that might have a different perspective than me and listening and being able to go, okay, yeah, no, my perspective, although might not be, is mine, it might not be right. Working with people, that's what this job is. It's a civic duty, it's a civic responsibility, and it's giving back to the community that has given me so much over the last 22 years. You know, I've played baseball at GT Bray Park, and that wouldn't be possible without local government, you know, parks and community like that. This huge, amazing community that we've created would not be possible without some form of government helping out. Yeah, that to me is a big part of it.
So city council meetings, have you been to them and how boring are they?
That's... Am I allowed to answer,
how do you stay awake?
Oh, yeah. A lot of caffeine. No, I have been to them. I try to utilize my time as wisely as possible, so attending every other weekly meeting isn't always on my schedule. We do have them on YouTube, and I review every single meeting's agenda notes after they come out and they're put online. I don't think they're boring. To me, they're fun. To me, they're very informative. I can see why from the outside looking in, they're quite bureaucracy laden.
It just feels like a whole different language. So if you don't speak that language, you're like, what is going on? So it takes and requires a lot of, again, curiosity and learning.
Yeah, absolutely. The language is definitely nuanced for sure. It's definitely not for the everyday person. And that to me is also an issue. I understand why we need to have things very legalese and very up to standard and perfect. I get that. But then there also should be a second level of less jargony, more, you know, down-to-earth talking. That's what I also want to bring to the council. I give the perfect example of, and I'm going to shout out Ted. Sorry, Ted, I love you to death. When you go and buy a car, they make it seem like they're the only people that can sell you a car. They throw all these numbers at you and all these terms and verbiage, just so you're the only one, they're the only one that can sell you a car. There's a reason why you can't go on Toyota.com and buy a car directly from Toyota. And I kind of harken back to government with that. They kind of want to make it seem like they're the only ones that can be in that position, that the everyday person shouldn't throw their hat in the ring. I'm just a guy. I'm just an everyday person that's done hospitality for 15 years and communications for 10. And I'm doing it. I read them, I understand them, and then I can turn them around and go, hey Phoebe, this is what this actually means. You know, they're using a lot of big terms because that's what they're supposed to do, but this word means this. You know, it's just this for this. Millage is a great one. People are like, what does millage mean? Millage is basically the percentage that we take out of your property tax that goes towards services like police, fire, EMS, roads, and stuff like that. It's a millage because it's 1,000, so mill, 1,000, right? So it's out of every $1,000, that percentage gets taken out. So I believe right now ours is 5.65. So $5.65 out of every 1,000 will go towards, you know, BPD, EMS, fire, all that stuff. But you wouldn't know that. You think millage, I think of grain when I thought of millage initially. Come on, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like, what are we talking about grain right now? Are these the farmers? We talk about farmers, what's going on? No, it's that. And you wouldn't know that initially if you didn't have someone explain it to you or do your own research. And sometimes maybe you shouldn't have to do your own research to understand what the hell is going on in local government. Sometimes you should just be informed.
To have to take a class or feel like you need to go back to school for everything in your life, it's like, we don't have time. People are going to work. They're trying to do stuff out here.
That is another part of this. I am a vessel from what is going on in local government to you guys, to every single resident. Regardless of if you vote for me or not, you know, it's still my job to be a representative for everybody that calls Ward 3 home.
As many of us have seen, politics don't come without disagreement. So what is your experience with conflict resolution in working alongside party lines?
Well, the one thing that I love about city council and local government is that party lines are really not existent. which is really good. We are no party affiliation election for a reason. Traffic doesn't care about your party affiliation, you know, the budget doesn't care about your party affiliation. I certainly hope not. So coming from an independent perspective, I very much have worked with both sides of the spectrum in a multitude of occasions. I think that both sides can come up with amazing ideas and both sides can come up with crazy ideas. But it's my job to make the decisions that best represent my constituents. So coming to disagreements, that's par for the course. That's the price of admission. But division is a choice, right? We can sensibly, respectfully disagree with each other, but we're still going to work towards the same goal. If we become divided, that is an active choice that we would make, and that is something that I haven't seen on the city council, and I don't expect to see getting on the city council. I love to work with anybody. I'm extremely nice. Like, I'll talk to anybody under the sun. I do not mind. I think that you do see that a lot in local politics, though, where if you don't vote with somebody or you don't vote with the council, they think that you're not going to support that decision. No, just because I might not vote with you on it doesn't mean that it didn't also still pass and that I'm also still on this council and I'm also still representing Bradenton and I'm also still going to do everything in my power to make sure that we're moving forward in the right direction. So my answer to that question would be differences in opinion absolutely will happen. Respectfully, I would be ludicrous to say otherwise. However, if those differences in opinion cause division, that's where we have to step. That's where we cannot let that happen. And I don't ever see that happening. I think everyone on that council currently is an adult. I've met with all of them. I've spoken with all of them. I think that they have wonderful ideas going forward. I think that there are some things that we could focus on better.
Okay, so what we're really talking about when we get down to the nitty-gritty is how do we be a good neighbor to other people and how do we elect people that will care for our neighborhood so that we can do better. So what does compassion in being a neighbor look like to you and why is that important?
Compassion is probably the most important part of being in any civic role. You are literally a representative of the people. Your job is people. And with that comes humanity and comes compassion, and passion. But I always like to tell this story, if you let me. They found this lower jawbone a while back now from Manatee, Georgia in the Middle East. It was like aged back about 2 million years ago. And the lower jawbone was missing all of his teeth except for one. We know that he lived a long time that way, which meant that somebody was helping him to eat. 2 million years ago, somebody cared for him. Maybe a group of people or an individual, somebody loved him. And during this campaign, I think a lot about that 2 million year old jawbone. Before laws or recourse or reason, that 2 million years ago, someone was compassionate, someone was being kind just for the sake of being kind. And if we could take those ancestors and bring them 2 million years into the future to right now and show them our world, everything would be alien to them, except for maybe one thing, which is compassion. So that really holds a lot of weight for me. It's making sure that you're listening, making sure that you're letting residents know that you're not there to talk at them, but you're there to hear them. And there's a difference between listening and active listening. I want to make sure that once the bell rings, I'm not out the door. Once the event is over, I'm not leaving. I'm staying and I'm making sure that every person that is taking the time to come out and talk to me or that has expressed an issue, that is actually heard. And I think that compassion starts with being kind and being curious and not judgmental. Hashtag Ted Lasso. But yeah, that's it for me. That's it right there.
I don't want someone serving my community that doesn't have compassion for other people because they're going to have more self-interest than they do in the interest of what my life is.
I'll give you a good example. When I first launched this campaign, I had no idea that this was a paid position. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought that it was volunteer-based, for lack of a better term. But no, yeah, they told me that I had to submit 1% of the salary for this position to qualify. That's when I found out there was a salary for this position. And it still is, don't get me wrong. Just because there's a salary attached to it doesn't mean that that's not why people want to do it. But there also is a reason why 60% of local elections across the nation go either uncontested or vacated. It's where they literally have to get someone to volunteer to do it. Look at my opponent. He was appointed, not because of lack of trying, but because there was a vacancy. So why I started this campaign was it's a democratically elected position. Somebody shouldn't just be handed the job. But now it's more because there's so many gaps that exist. There's so much lack of compassion when it comes to decision makings in some regard. And I do genuinely think that I am the best person to represent Ward 3 on that council. You are a representative of the totality of the ward, and I think that I best represent the ward.
What's one last statement then, Thomas, you'd like to leave for the people of Manatee?
Sure. With the primaries coming up, I would like to say make sure that you are registered to vote and all of that information is up to date. Also, there's been, well, not confusion, but to circumnavigate any confusion And to give it a really good sports analogy, if you're not into politics, you might be into sports. I have a first round bye. I will not be on the August 18th primary ballots. We are a no party affiliation election. Primaries are strictly just to whittle down that party's candidates to one person. So we will be on the November 3rd ballot. That is something that I would very much like everyone to be aware of, because I've already gotten people like, oh, I've gotten my sample ballot and you're not on it. Because it's the primaries, we're good, no stress. November 3rd is the day that you should hyper-focus on being aware and knowing you've done all your research. There's a bunch of 411 guides out there for voters that you can look at. I know WUSF does one, the League of Women Voters does one. Do your research. Know the people that are trying to represent you. Look into me, look into my background and see where I'm coming from. I tell people I'm just a guy that served tables and made you a drink probably 1 or 2 times across of your life living here. And I'm also a communications specialist. I like to take really big, grand ideas and make them as easy as possible to understand for everybody. And I think with those 2 pieces of background under my wing and with my education in communications, I think that I would make a pretty dang good council person.
Very nice. And I would love to know, how can people find you and get to know you better?
Perfect. Social media is one, Facebook, Instagram, Thomas Schwarz. Bradenton usually brings it up. I'm the only one that's running for city council with my name in Bradenton. And, or schwarzforward3.com. So it's SCHWARZFORWARD3.com. And that is my website. There's a blog on there that goes a little bit more into me and a lot of the questions that I get that are pretty common. So like, where do I fall? Am I under the Board of County Commissions for the county, or am I in the city limits? All of that information you can find on my blog, on my website.
And one last thing, if people want to meet you in person, is there an opportunity to do that?
There are. So outside of this coming up Saturday, the 11th, every Saturday you can find me at Orange Blossom Cafe, downtown Bradenton, from 9:30 to about noon, depending on how many people show up. I stay longer. I want to shake everybody's hand and talk to as many people as possible. But every Saturday from now to the election, I will be at Orange Blossom Cafe.
That's awesome. And maybe to land this plane, because we know where to find you now, and physically and online, could you tell us, what have you learned from having those coffee and conversations, and what do you like about it?
That people are absolutely love to be engaged, and they love to actually meet their potential representatives, that they want to learn more about us, they want to be as affiliated as possible, they want to be in the know. They just need to know how to get access to us, whether that's currently elected officials or potential elected officials and candidates.
And you want people to call you Thomas or Tom?
Thomas, because I want you to remember that that's what's going to be on the ballot, but because we're friends, Phoebe, Tommy is okay. Tom is too old. Tom is like old man sitting behind a desk. I can't do that. That's too much. We're bringing younger people into politics.
All right. Okay. Well, very nice. Don't forget, compassion matters.
Compassion matters.
Compassion matters, no matter who you are.
You're the best.
You too. All right. Very nice. Let's go out and meet more constituents.
Let's do it. I'm ready. Look at that.
Sharp man. Sharp man.
Cheers.